All right, ready to dive deep.
Always.
Today it's Fund Your $100,000. This book, well, it really shakes things up when it comes to, dealing with wealth inequality.
Definitely a fresh take. It's not just the same old solutions rehashed.
Right. And to make sure we hit all the important points, we've got these 10 questions from some really top economics professors. They're going to help guide our deep dive.
Oh, that's fantastic. Those will definitely keep us on track and make sure we're hitting all the key points.
Yeah. Now, what I found exciting about this book, it's not just another tax the rich kind of approach. It really introduces a whole new concept. Have you heard of the FY100 account?
Oh, absolutely. That's the heart of the book, right? The FY100 account.
Yes. So imagine this. It's like a special account where you can build up to $100,000 completely tax-free.
And you can use it for more than just retirement. That's what makes it so interesting.
Exactly. This is where things get really cool.
It's not just about the mechanics of the account either. The book paints this picture of how it could revolutionize things, employee bonuses, even lottery payouts.
And charitable giving, they even talk about that.
Oh, for sure. It's all about giving everyone at every level a chance to build wealth through ownership and investment.
Okay, so break it down for me. How does this FY100 account actually work? Like, what are the nuts and bolts?
It's actually pretty simple. Think of it like a souped-up savings account.
Yeah.
You can contribute up to $100,000 over your lifetime.
Okay, got it.
All contributions and any growth within the account, it's all tax-free.
That's amazing.
The catch is you can't touch the money until you're 65.
So it is mainly for retirement, but it sounds like it has more flexibility than a, traditional 401k or something.
Exactly. And that's where the magic happens. The book has all these different scenarios. For example, imagine companies offering FY100 bonuses instead of stock options.
Wow. So employees get to share in the company's success.
And build long-term wealth.
Yeah, that's amazing. A bonus that keeps growing tax-free for like decades. Sign me up.
Right. Or picture this. You win the lottery. But instead of taking a lump sum, you put it all into your FY100 account.
That would be incredible. Not just a windfall, but a foundation for your financial future.
Absolutely. And it's not just about individual wealth. The book talks about how charities could use FY100 accounts to invest in people directly.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, imagine a charity giving someone not just immediate help, but a tool to build long-term financial security.
Okay, I see the potential here. But I'm curious, how would this actually benefit someone like, me or our listeners? Does this apply to everybody, no matter their age or how much they make?
That's a great question. And the book dives into that with some case studies. It shows how FY100 could help people at different stages of life, different income levels.
So they're trying to show that it works for everybody.
Yeah. They even have an example of how it could benefit someone who's already wealthy.
Really? That's surprising. I was going to ask, why would someone who's already rich even bother with a $100,000 account?
It's a good question. And the book's answer might surprise you. It could still be really advantageous.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So let's say we have this billionaire, right?
He's big bucks.
Exactly. Now, for him, $100,000 might not be life-changing. But the tax advantages, still a big deal. He could max out his own account and then start funding accounts for, family, employees, charities.
Oh, so it becomes a way to kind of spread the wealth.
Right, and still benefit from those tax savings.
Interesting. So win-win, even for the super rich.
Exactly. And the book argues that this kind of giving, driven by both, being smart with money and also wanting to help others, could be a really powerful force for good.
Okay, starting to see the bigger picture here. But let's get into the nitty-gritty of those tax advantages. How do they work for both the person giving the money and the person receiving it?
It's a pretty clever system. Anyone who contributes to someone else's FY100 account gets to deduct that from their taxable income.
So instant tax break for being generous. I like it.
Yeah, and for the person receiving the money, tax-free growth on those contributions until retirement.
Double tax benefits. So it's not just about avoiding taxes, but about stimulating the economy.
That's exactly what the book argues. It's about long-term benefits for everybody.
Okay, so tell me about these potential economic impacts. Could FY100 actually boost the whole economy?
Well, the book explores a few different possibilities. One of the most interesting ones is the potential for actually reducing federal taxes in the long run.
Wait, how would that work?
Well, think about it. As more people put money into their FY100 accounts, that money is invested in businesses, right?
domestic businesses, hopefully.
Exactly. And that could lead to more economic growth,
Which means...
higher tax revenues overall.
So it's not just about sheltering money, it's about using it to fuel growth that eventually leads to more tax money for the government.
That's a really interesting argument. It's kind of a virtuous cycle, and all that increased economic activity, that could really affect how money flows through the economy.
Okay, explain that. How would FY100 change the flow of money?
Here's an example from the book. Imagine the money in FY100 accounts circulating. People use it to, I don't know, buy houses, start businesses, invest in new technologies.
Okay, I'm following you.
That creates jobs, boosts innovation. It's a ripple effect.
So instead of just sitting in a savings account, the money is actively working to grow the economy.
Exactly. And get this. The book even suggests that FY100 could lessen the need for those social safety net programs.
Whoa, hold on. That's a big claim.
I know, right? But their argument is if FY100 helps more people become financially secure, they might need less help from the government as they get older.
Interesting. So it's not about getting rid of the safety net, but making it more sustainable.
Exactly. It's about giving people the tools to build their own financial safety net. And this could mean lower taxes and a more sustainable system.
All right, I'm on board so far. But how would all of this actually work? Like, what would the government's role be?
Well, the book suggests that the Social Security Administration could handle setting up and managing the accounts.
Makes sense. They already do that kind of thing.
Right. And the SEC, they could oversee the investments, making sure everything is managed well.
So there's a plan to integrate this into, existing systems.
Absolutely. And they also talk about tax breaks to encourage participation.
Okay, this all sounds great, but there are going to be some skeptics out there. There always are.
Oh, absolutely. Any new idea is going to face scrutiny. And that's where those 10 questions from the economists come in.
Right. They're going to help us address some of those concerns. So what's the first big worry people might have about FY100?
Well, a common one is whether the wealthy would just find a way to, game the system.
Yeah, I can see that. We've seen that happen before. What does the book say about that?
Well, remember that $100,000 limit? That stops the wealthy from just pouring tons of money into their own accounts.
Right.
To get more tax benefits, they'd have to contribute to other people's accounts.
Okay, so even if they max out their own account, they're encouraged to spread the wealth to get those tax breaks. Clever.
It's built in to encourage a more equitable distribution.
Okay, that addresses that concern. But what about inflation? If we're putting so much money into the economy, won't prices go up?
That's another question the book tackles. The argument is that because the FY100 contributions are spread out over decades, it wouldn't be a sudden shock.
So it's a gradual process that the economy can absorb.
Exactly. Plus, remember, the money is locked away until retirement. That further reduces the risk of sudden inflation.
Now, you said earlier that FY100 could reduce our reliance on Social Security. But would it really? I bet some people are skeptical.
It's a fair question, and the book does acknowledge that FY100 isn't meant to completely replace Social Security. It's more like a supplement. But they make a good case that if people have more retirement savings, it could lessen the burden on the system.
So a way to make Social Security more sustainable. I like it.
Exactly, and it's about giving individuals more control over their financial future.
All right, I'm with you so far. But here's a thought. Does this whole thing rely on people being altruistic? What if people are just looking out for themselves?
That's a common question. But the book argues that FY100 can work whether people are altruistic or self-interested.
Really? How is that possible?
Think about those tax benefits again. They're a powerful incentive no matter what your motivation is. Even if you're just trying to save on taxes, you're still helping create a system that benefits others.
So even self-interest can lead to positive social outcomes. Interesting.
Exactly. It's a system where both self-interest and altruism can work together for a better future. And the book gives some really interesting examples of how that could happen.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Tell me more about these examples. How does the book envision FY100 working in practice? And how does it use self-interest to actually drive positive change?
Well, one example that really stood out to me is what they call the Billionaire FY100 Children's Challenge. Imagine a billionaire saying, hey, I'm going to fund the FY100 accounts of 1,000 kids from low-income families.
Wow, that's a big move. But where's the self-interest there?
Think about it. The billionaire gets a huge tax break, good publicity, maybe even build some goodwill with future customers or employees.
That's it.
But the impact on those kids is huge. They now have a financial foundation they wouldn't have had otherwise.
A win-win. Even if the billionaire's main goal was to benefit themselves, That shows how FY100 can incentivize real change.
Exactly. And the book is full of examples like this. Corporate social responsibility, community investment programs. It's all about using self-interest to create a better world.
That's amazing. It's
Yeah.
really inspiring to see how doing well and doing good don't have to be separate things.
That's what I love about this book. It's not just a policy proposal, it's a vision for a more just and compassionate world.
Right. It's a different way of thinking about things. And, I was really impressed with how the book looks at FY100 through different lenses like capitalism, libertarianism, even MMT.
Oh, absolutely. It really shows how much thought went into this. It shows how this initiative could work with all sorts of different economic and political philosophies.
Okay, so let's get into that. Give me a quick rundown of how FY100 fits into each of those perspectives, starting with capitalism.
Well, with capitalism, the book highlights how FY100 actually supports those core ideas of, free markets and individual initiative, but it also tries to address wealth inequality.
Which, let's face it, is often a problem with unchecked capitalism.
Right, so it's not about getting rid of capitalism, but making it work better for everyone.
I like that. A capitalist solution to a capitalist problem.
Exactly. It's about harnessing the power of free markets to create a more just society.
Now, what about libertarianism? How does FY100 appeal to those folks?
Libertarians are all about individual freedom and limited government, right? Well, FY100 gives people more control over their financial futures with very little government oversight. That's a very libertarian approach.
So it's about empowering individuals rather than relying on government handouts.
Precisely. And the book also delves into modern monetary theory, or MMT.
Okay, that one's a bit more complex.
It is, but the basic idea is that governments can spend more freely than traditionally thought as long as they keep inflation in check. And FY100, by boosting the economy and increasing tax revenue, could actually help reduce the need for deficit spending.
So it aligns with MMT in that way. Interesting.
It's a nuanced discussion, but the book does a great job of explaining it.
All right, this has been a whirlwind tour so far. My brain is already doing backflips trying to process all this, but we've still got those 10 professor questions to tackle. What other concerns did they bring up?
Oh, they had plenty more. They really dug deep into the potential challenges and opportunities, everything from the practical details to the bigger social and political impacts.
Okay, I'm ready for more. Let's dive back in.
All right, so those 10 questions from the economics professors really made us think.
They did. We've already talked about some big ones, like inflation.
Yeah.
And how the wealthy might try to take advantage of the system.
Right. But there were a lot more. Like, one concern was about whether FY100 would stop people from investing in the usual ways, like stocks, bonds, real estate.
That's a good point. We wouldn't want FY100 to make the investment landscape less diverse. What's the book's take on that?
Well, they emphasize that FY100 is meant to work with traditional savings and investments, not replace them. It's about giving people more options, especially those who might not be using the existing ones.
So it's about getting more people involved in investing, not taking money away from the existing markets.
Exactly. A strong economy needs all kinds of investments.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the cost of all this? Setting up and managing millions of accounts can't be cheap. Did the professors bring up administrative costs?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's a practical concern with any big program. And the book admits that there would be costs, but they say those costs would be small compared to the benefits.
Like what kinds of benefits? Give me some examples.
Well, think about the extra tax revenue from a stronger economy. Or maybe less reliance on those social safety net programs as more people become financially secure.
So the savings could make up for the cost of running the program.
Exactly. It's a long-term investment. Plus, they talk about using existing systems like the Social Security Administration to keep costs down.
Makes sense. Now, what about those other retirement programs like 401ks and pensions? Would FY100 make things too complicated?
The book says that FY100 is meant to be another option, not a replacement. It's especially for people who might not have access to those traditional plans.
So filling the gaps, not competing.
Right. And get this, they suggest that FY100 could actually encourage people to participate more in those other plans by raising awareness about retirement planning.
I see what you mean. A new option might make people think more seriously about planning for retirement in general.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture of saving and investing.
Which brings up another professor question that I thought was really important: financial literacy. If we're going to give people more control over their money, don't we need to teach them how to manage it?
Absolutely. The book stresses how important financial literacy is. People need to understand the basics to make good decisions.
So it's not enough to just set up the accounts. We need education too.
Right. We need to help people become financially savvy.
Okay, so earlier we were talking about how the book analyzes FY100 through different lenses like capitalism and MMT. I'm curious, what about the two major political parties here in the US, the Democrats and Republicans? How does FY100 look to them?
That's a really important question. If FY100 is going to happen, it'll need support from both sides.
Right. So how does it measure up to each party's values? Let's start with the Democrats.
Well, the book points out that FY100 fits with a lot of core democratic values. Reducing inequality, promoting opportunity, strengthening the social safety net.
Okay, break those down for me. Starting with reducing inequality.
Democrats want to see less of a gap between the rich and the poor. Right. FY100 tries to create a more equal distribution of wealth, so it fits with that goal.
It's about giving everyone a chance to build wealth, not just those who are already at the top.
Exactly. And by giving people the power to build wealth through investing, it could lead to a more just society.
Now, what about promoting opportunity? How does FY100 do that for Democrats?
They believe that everyone should have a fair shot, no matter their background. FY100 helps create a level playing field by giving everyone access to this wealth-building tool.
It's not about handouts. It's about giving people a way to succeed through hard work and good financial decisions.
Right. And the book also argues that it could help strengthen the social safety net.
But it's not supposed to replace the safety net, right?
No, it's more like a way to make it more sustainable. If more people have their own savings, they might rely less on government assistance.
So it's about finding that balance.
Exactly. And it could even lead to lower taxes and a better safety net system overall.
Okay, so it sounds like FY100 checks a lot of boxes for Democrats. Now, what about the Republicans?
That's where it gets interesting. The book actually argues that FY100 appeals to Republicans too.
Really? I'm surprised. Why would they like it?
Because it aligns with their values of limited government, fiscal responsibility, and individual liberty.
Let's go through those, starting with limited government. How does FY100 fit in?
Republicans want less government intervention, right?
Well, FY100 relies on private investment, not government programs. It's all about empowering individuals.
So instead of the government redistributing wealth, people are building it themselves.
Exactly. And that self-reliance is a big part of Republican thinking.
Okay, I can see that. What about fiscal responsibility? Republicans are always worried about spending and debt. Well, the book argues that FY100 could actually help with that. If fewer people need government assistance, that means less spending and maybe even lower taxes.
So it's fiscally responsible.
Right. And finally, individual liberty. Republicans believe in freedom and autonomy.
And FY100 gives people control over their own money.
Exactly. They decide how much to contribute and how to use it when they retire. That fits right in with the idea of limited government interference.
This is fascinating. So the book is arguing that FY100 could bridge the gap between Democrats and Republicans.
It's really impressive how they show how it appeals to both sides.
It's about finding that common ground, creating a system that works for everyone. But I have a feeling those professors still had some questions.
Oh, they did. For example, they asked about the impact on existing financial institutions.
Yeah, we touched on that earlier. Like, if everyone's using FY100, what happens to banks, investment firms, insurance companies?
Right. Would it create more competition? Would those companies have to innovate and become more customer-focused?
I wish the author had explored that more.
It's a good reminder that any big change will have unexpected effects. We have to think about those too.
All right, let's go back to one of the big ideas here. Wealth creation, not wealth redistribution.
That's a key difference with this book. It's not about taking from the rich and giving to the poor.
It's about giving everyone a chance to build their own wealth.
Like, instead of just dividing up the pie, we're making the whole pie bigger.
I like that. And everyone benefits that way.
Exactly. It's about everyone having a stake in the success of the economy.
Okay, as we're wrapping up this part of our deep dive, I'm curious, which of those professor questions really stood out to you?
That's a tough one. They were all really interesting, but the one about how FY100 might change people's savings and investment habits, that one really stuck with me.
The idea that people might just focus on FY100 and ignore other investments.
Right. We need to make sure people are using all the tools available, not just putting all their eggs in one basket.
So balance is important.
Exactly.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the potential benefits and challenges of FY100, how it fits with different political and economic ideas, and we even tackled those tough questions from the economists. But there's one more thing from the book I want to talk about. This idea of going beyond self-interest.
Oh, yes. That's a really fascinating part of the book. It's about what motivates people and whether being self-interested can actually lead to good things for everyone.
Right. The book says that FY100 can work whether people are just looking out for themselves or if they genuinely want to help others.
That might sound strange, but they make a pretty convincing case.
All right, let's explore that in our final segment. All right, let's dive into this beyond self-interest idea. It's a pretty intriguing concept, and it seems like a big part of this whole FY100 thing.
It is. The book kind of flips the script on the idea that you have to choose between, being selfish or being selfless. It says FY100 can actually make those two work together.
Okay, that sounds a little too good to be true. How do they explain that?
Well, it's all about how FY100 is designed. Think about those tax benefits we keep talking about. They're a big incentive for people to contribute, even if they're not really thinking about helping others.
So someone might just be trying to lower their own taxes, but they end up contributing to something that benefits everyone.
Exactly. And the book has a bunch of examples of how this self-interest can actually lead to really positive changes.
Okay, I need to hear these examples. How does this beyond self-interest idea actually work in the real world? What kind of examples does the book give?
Well, one that stuck with me is something they call the Legacy FY100 Fund. Imagine someone wealthy, maybe getting older, who decides to set up a fund that contributes to the FY100 accounts of young people in their community, like forever.
That's pretty amazing, but I don't see the self-interest part.
Well, the person setting up the fund, they get to leave a legacy, right? Maybe lower their estate taxes, and they might even get recognized for their generosity.
Okay, I see.
But think about the impact on all those young people. It could be life-changing.
So it's like this ripple effect that keeps going.
Exactly. And the book has a lot of examples like that. Corporate social responsibility programs, community investments. It's all about using self-interest as a force for good.
It really makes you think. Maybe we can create a world where doing well and doing good aren't separate things.
That's what's so powerful about this book. It's not just about policy. It's about creating a more just and compassionate world.
Yeah.
A world where everyone has a chance to succeed.
Okay, I'm convinced. Sign me up for FY100.
Yeah.
But before we wrap things up, I want to go back to something we talked about earlier, how this book bridges the political divide. It seems to appeal to both Democrats and Republicans. How does it manage to do that?
It's really smart about it. It avoids all that partisan language and focuses on things we can all agree on, like economic opportunity, security, and individual freedom. It shows how FY100 can work no matter what your political beliefs are.
So it's not about pushing one side or the other. It's about finding common ground.
Exactly. And that's what gives me hope. In a world where everyone seems so divided, this book shows that we can still come together to solve big problems.
Couldn't agree more. This has been a fantastic deep dive. Thanks for exploring this book with me. I think it's given us a lot to think about.
Me too. This book really challenges the way we think about wealth and opportunity, and it gives us a new way to imagine a more equitable future.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, if you're intrigued by what you've heard today, definitely check out Fund Your $100,000. It's a book that will spark some important conversations.
It might even change the way you think about the world.
Well said. And that's it for our deep dive into Fund Your $100,000. We hope you found it insightful. Until next time, keep asking questions and stay curious.